I'm Gordon Baird. Welcome to Fishtown Express. Piggy's Big Adventure. Piggy spends most of her days cruising the perimeter of the fence around her run down the farm. She wears an indescribable smile on her ambitious face, inscrutable in its hopefulness and optimism, that she will discover some amazing thing along the fence if she just keeps going. Most sections she can lean slightly outward, achieving great scratching satisfaction as the little squares of the wire fence ripple across her firm exterior, thereby adding to her ageless smile. It is a smile that seems to date back to Greek mythology in its 4,000-year-old wisdom. I often wonder what she's thinking, musing of ancient clashes and games of gods and their divine egos on Mount Olympus, all in a pig's daily life, an active piggy imagination. This day, Piggy strikes it rich. Mr. Goat and Donkey have been led out of the run to their portable pasture. It's a solar-powered mobile wire and stake fence that can easily be moved around the big field, providing fresh grazing for their happy selves. But Piggy is never pleased to be left behind and consoles herself with a morning fence tour and scratch session. She wants to be running free with the wind blowing through her hair. Yes, free as a pig. But pigs have responsibilities to hold down the fort while the big animals are out working. And she, Iggy, fully intended to fulfill them, until she rounded the corner of her barn to see that the hasp of the gate closing latch has slipped off to the side of its keeper. All she has to do is gently press, and zing, the gate is open. She stands blinking, unbelieving, overwhelmed by the options for mischief and self-fulfillment. A pig's gotta do what a pig's gotta do, after all. So out she goes. She was on her way to a big adventure. First thing was to trot on out to show the goat and donkey that they weren't so hot. They're out in their pen eating, sure, but she was free and eating. Although grass wasn't her favorite nosh. She was in search of gooier, more ambitious treasures. Not farmer-approved stuff, but out-of-bounds, totally taboo goodies. For that, off Iggy the Piggy headed towards the grain shed, her little butt waddling along in high parade mode. Both goat and donkey were transfixed by the piggy parade passing them by. They wanted to parade to the grain house too. But no dice. This was a pig's only affair. She wasn't sharing anything with anyone. Nothing with nobody. The fence was their problem. The grain door was closed and locked, however, and she had to turn back in disappointment. She concentrated on a bunch of mystery items in a swirl on the ground to make the other two think that she had gotten through to the real stuff. They couldn't see exactly what she was eating, but they knew they wanted it too. The donkey, he started bellowing in rage and jealousy. Meanwhile, the farmer, me, was inside having a mug-up when the donkey air raid siren went off. What was up? My amusement, well, it turned to horror as I zeroed in on the situation. Piggy was back in the field now and trotting innocently off towards the section of woods that contained 3 families of coyotes, all sizes and shapes. Yelling and calling her name did nothing, and running after her only caused her to increase her speed towards the destructive lair. I could just see those coyotes in there sharpening their carving knives and licking their lips as Piggy came closer and closer. I panicked at that image, but then I realized I had but one choice. I turned around and raced back in the opposite direction towards the grain house, thinking I had to make as much noise as I could to distract Piggy's attention. Well, she did become curious enough to look, but she kept on hoofing towards the enemy position. Upon reaching the grain store, I made as much clanking and trash can noise as I could in filling up a container. Well, she sniffed the air, and she turned her head back towards me. I shook, and I rattled the grain cup as I strided not too fast across the field to not chase her away. A whiff of the extra smelly molasses-based grain halted her, just as she had reached the perimeter of the forest. She looked back at the approaching me. Well, then wistfully into the forest she looked to freedom. But thankfully she chose the food and trotted over to see what I had to offer. I briskly walked back to the farm, and she followed, now running like an aggravated dog chasing a car. I had to dash to keep ahead of her. That is one fast little piggy. But as the parade reached the gate, the grain flew through the opening, and Piggy rampaged after it, throwing herself into the cleanup like a vacuum cleaner on steroids. Yes, disaster averted, I succumbed to giving Piggy about 100 pats in gratitude for coming back to get the grain. 5 more feet, and the meal might have been her. Iggy doesn't do hugs, but if I could have, I would have. She was awfully proud of herself for her big day out in the world. But please, Piggy, no more adventures. Back to scratching on the fence and keeping it in the sun and sleeping the day away. It's safer. Please, Piggy, take my word for it.